Hello, my amazing generators. I'm so excited to pour into the 37% of you that are generators, or if you are a coach or just a person who has a generator close to you or no generators in your life that you want to just understand what the heck is up with them and why they may be operating a little bit differently from you. This is a really great kind of grounded 101 video to just get you understanding more about this aura type. I'm going to use one of my beautiful generators charts that's in my generator Patreon name and to highlight the different ways that we have different generators that act a little bit differently in human design. And some things that I wish were made more clear when I was studying human design. For those of you who may not know, I've been reading charts for 9 years now, and I've also been practicing my own human design experiment for 9 years. So without further ado, let's take a look at Anne's chart and get started on learning more about generators. So one of the things that wasn't highlighted or as clearly explained to me and making generators feel vastly different from each other, even meeting different generators throughout your path, is that not every generator is going to have a defined throat center in human design. I noticed that generators who have more openness or more defined or energy centers, undefined energy centers, whiteness in their human design body graph tend to get along or connect more with projectors because people tend to talk over you guys a lot. They see that openness in your throat. And it's like a blank canvas to fill their words with, right? You also see this a little bit with a defined and undefined throat people having a conversation, defined throat man, gen versus an undefined throat person. Depending on the context of generators, they could go either way, where if it's a person that they feel comfortable speaking with or the first person that they feel actually sees them and they're an undefined throat center, they could be a little bit more chatty versus if they're in the mindset of really learning and being in a group setting, they're a little bit more observational, right? Really factoring in the data and filtering in the data through their mind to understand things. That's why anyone I see with the 63.4 channel, like, and that's a generator I know is very studious and is going to be really good at what they do for a living. So just putting that into practice. Now, what you'll also see from my manifesting generator video is that Anne has the same channel as my manifesting generator, Cassandra, that I used as an example, the 4629 channel, which is what makes her part of the channels, one of the channels that makes her sacrally defined, as well as being an emotional authority versus a sacral authority. So for Anne, even though she's a generator that can make decisions with her sacral, kind of knowing how she feels right away, she wants to give herself about 24 hours to think about something before committing herself to something, someone, etc., especially more life-changing things, right? So what's interesting about this and something that I wished was explained a little bit more clearly when I was learning about human design, or that I wish was solidified or made a little bit more obvious, is how important and life-changing that waiting period can be for generators and manifesting generators, and that it's not meant to be used to overthink with your logical mind up here. Notice there's not a direct plug of channels from the sacral to the logical mind, whether or not you have it defined, to understand why you may want to do something, right? Or why you want to talk yourself out of doing something, talk yourself out of dating somebody, right? This is also be true for people who have a Virgo Venus as well, or heavy Virgo placements, right? So what's interesting about this is that when you are an emotional authority as a generator, that waiting period is also meant for you to kind of digest upon, whether actively or non-actively thinking about the problem that you're trying to solve or waiting to respond to somebody. It's a matter of giving yourself time to think about things. So the way that I've explained this before over on TikTok and given an example of this during my live mini readings is that, okay, if somebody asked you to go on vacation to Spain and it was an all-inclusive paid for vacation, you're like, heck yeah, like why wouldn't I say yes to that? Like, of course, like that would be so silly. But you may be somebody who's a little bit older in life now, like I am, where I'm like, okay, certain things I was willing to compromise on when it came to travel in my late teens and early 20s that I'm not really comfortable compromising on now if I'm going to travel. So if your knee-jerk reaction as a generator is to say yes and say, yeah, I'm going to go on that trip right away, you may sleep on it and then wake up the next day and you're like, wait, but they never said where am I going to sleep? And for those of you who have watched the first season of White Lotus is one of my favorite TV shows of all time. There's a scene or a family that goes on vacation. And the little brother ends up sleeping in like the galley kitchen on a cot that is like basically 3 feet wide and 6 feet deep in this little closet, right? And so while you're like, okay, some people would say free vacation, who cares where I sleep? I'll sleep on the floor. I'll sleep on the balcony outside. I don't really care. Well, as somebody like me is like, you know what? I really want to make sure, like, do I have my own bed? Do I have my own door to close? That's really important to me. That's maybe a little bit closer, a little bit larger than, a galley kitchen with a cot set up in it. Let me make sure that I ask those questions because I know that that is part of what, my accommodations are important to me as a generator-based energy type, although I'm a manifesting generator, really understanding gate 29, what you're committing yourself to. As a generator wading through your emotional wave, again, it's not to always talk yourself out of something, but to understand, oh, maybe there's some other questions that I have to ask here that are really important for my foundation of values of what's going to make me feel safe in expressing my aura type as a manifesting generator. Another thing that I go back and forth with, depending on other placements and looking at more nuances of where somebody is in their human design experiment, especially during a reading with so many generators that I've read for over the course of my career, is understanding the nuance of answering or asking, generators yes or no, A or B, black or white questions versus open-ended questions. So what I found that the slight nuance is that if the open-ended question is presented to a generator through the lens or the energetics of giving them an option to really pick their brain in a healthy way about what they think about something, they're willing to chat away and to come to a conclusion, responding to that person, coming, to some sort of conclusion, responding to each other, having a conversation about it, like, where do you want to go for dinner, right? Now, generators that are overwhelmed or they're severely conditioned or they're just stressed out and really having a hard time working through what they even like at the very beginning of their human design experiment are going to do better with being prompted A or B, black or white, yes or no questions. So say an example I always use is like dinner time on a Friday night. Okay, you get home, you're like, do I want to cook something or do I want to eat out? Okay, I know that I don't feel like cooking tonight. That's a definite, but I know that I want to eat out, right? Do I want to go and order takeout from a restaurant, or do I want to actually go out into a town, whatever, go to an actual restaurant? Oh, you know what? I actually have this outfit and it's going to be the first 65-degree day of the spring. Okay, I want to go to a restaurant. Okay, refining from there. Do I want to go to get Italian food or do I want some sort of like Latin cuisine? None of those really sound like that great for me. But you know what? Like, actually, now that I think about it, because I'm excited, there's this new American restaurant down the street that has these really great sushi pizzas and pasta, right? And I want to try a little bit of both. I don't really feel like I want to settle on like one really specific cuisine. So why don't we go there instead? And that's a little bit of the blend of getting the black or white, yes or no, A or B answers to refine down to where we're at, right? To ask a little bit more the open-ended. And when you're like, no, I don't feel like either of those options. Okay, well, what maybe sounds like something in the ballpark more so of what you feel like, you can get a little bit more clear. And that's what it means and kind of looks like to follow your sacral excitement in a way that's going to help you understand what you want out of life as a generator a little bit more clearly to kind of help you get more clarity on what that looks like. One of the last things that I wish that more of my generators knew that is entirely and completely helpful and revolutionary is really understanding where and how others can pour into you. And a lot of that is through our open centers. So you guys have seen me use my beautiful little Turkish coffee mug here. And I say that people who have undefined centers can only hold this much liquid of other people's water, let's say. And you have somebody with the defined energy center coming in, pouring into you, right? And then maybe that's, they keep pouring, keep chatting as somebody like Anne with an undefined throat center and someone with the defined throat center comes in. And they start to feel like they can't catch their breath because they're being overused or overtaxed by that other person's energy. That can be used for the detriment or the benefit of somebody in human design. And one of the ways that your aura is seen through the eyes of other aura types, even other generators in human design, is that you're the capable one, you're the doer, you can get things done, whether voluntarily or involuntarily. And it's looking at, well, if I'm going to do this, where am I being poured back into, so that it is more of a symbiotic relationship? Because realistically, that's the reality that we live in on the 3D earth, is that there will probably be many people that we meet in their lifetime that will never care to learn or to understand their human design, but we understand it and we understand us. So once we understand us, how can we choose how to play the game of life in a way that helps us connect with other people, but make sure that life isn't happening to us, but for us, and the role we play within that, right? So that being said, for somebody like Anne, who has an undefined ego, heart, motivation center in human design, this is where our willpower comes from. It's also our sense of worthiness. So I have this defined, about 30% of the population does. So I am really good. I do a lot of co-working sessions. You guys will see the archive of my lives where I've done things like that if you're interested in using some of my overflow. And it's like I'm pouring extra juice from my battery into that center for Anne, because there may be other places in her life where she's feeling a little bit depleted. We've talked about this when it comes to different areas of life where they're not as fulfilling. A lot of people experience this when it comes to work-related things. And so if you can't change all of the people in that workplace environment, where can you find other people that will pour into you? Or in those snap moments, as your cycle time gets quicker and understanding what your sacral wants, needs, and desires in the workplace, in love, in life in general, out of your career, how can you make sure that there is an even give and take where you're getting fulfilled or your sacral is being filled up in a right way? So maybe, somebody asked you to stay an extra half hour late at work, and you say, okay, but my negotiation is that I'm coming in a half hour later tomorrow, or that you pick up my coffee order, from XYZ Cup of Joe's local coffee shop in the morning, or something that gives you that healthy give and take of when you're pouring out, right? And maybe pouring a little bit more from an empty cup, as happens right now, especially as we're in the beginnings of our human design experiment. Where can you feel like you've advocated for a boundary for yourself to make sure that you're full in either other places or in a place that's directly, in exchange or barter with the person that is going to be maybe hemorrhaging that energy a little bit more. So if you have any questions about what it means to be a generator with an emotional authority, sacral authority, or any ways where you feel like you don't really understand what it means to be a generator, or are really confused by generators in your life that you're like, they don't sound anything like Anne, just feel free to leave me a comment in the comments below, and I will prioritize making a video for you explaining their data and why they may be a little bit different more for you in another video. So enjoy. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and give me a follow. If you enjoyed this video, please feel free to let me know about what you'd like me to cover next at any point. I wish you a very blessed human design experiment, and I will see you soon.